Hi, I'm Angela H. Brown. I'm the Executive Director for Craft Lake City. The Craft Lake City Business Academy is taught for creatives by creatives. These business courses are led by established makers in the Salt Lake City art scene. You'll be learning tips, tricks, and trade secrets from their combined decades of experience. I hope you enjoy this class, and thank you so much for your support of Craft Lake City and Utah's creative community.
My name is Sarah, and I studied English literature in college, which seemed as good a place as any to start sort of my background. I didn't study design or marketing or business, which would have been really handy, but here we are. So I did things like I worked in sales for a local letterpress company. I lived in New York for a little bit and was a manager at a store where kids could like publish their own books. These days, I work full time for a company called Big Cartel. It's an e-commerce platform. And then I spend my nights and weekends working on City of Industry. And this combination of jobs has worked really nicely for me. Big Cartel gives me a lot of insight into small businesses and online shops, and then because it is a business that's focused on helping small businesses, they've been really supportive of City of Industry, which has been awesome. So I launched City of Industry with one product. So the story was that I was starting to see just a few like enamel pins on the market, and I wanted one that represented my love of stationery. So I had this idea of like, wouldn't it be cool if there was like an envelope enamel pin, but one didn't exist on the market yet. And so I did some research and figured out how to get a custom pin made and designed something, but then the minimum order for that pin that I wanted was like 100 pins. So I had to sort of justify the cost of this run and also figure out what to do with the 99 pins that I didn't need for myself. And that's how City of Industry was born. So here's my first pin. I knew that I needed to, I think, sell like 20 of the pins or something like that in order to cover my costs. So that was my initial goal, was like, if that's all I do, just cover the cost of production for those, with those 20 sales, I'll call it a success. And I obviously made those 20 sales, and then from there just reinvested the profits into making more products. In 2014, I moved from New York back to Salt Lake City, partly because I missed my nieces and my best friend, but also because that's when I got the job offer from Big Cartel, and they sort of brought me back to Salt Lake. And then it was the next year that I had my first in-person selling experience at Craft Lake City's DIY Festival. It was a great experience to really see people interacting with my products and my brand in person. You get like totally different feedback or experience from doing something like that. And then the brand just continued growing over time. You can see some of my products that sort of got added to the line over time. One of my enamel pins there in the middle, a little pencil that says yay instead of like number 2. And then I do like embroidered patches like the one on the left. I do stationery. So that card on the right is a greeting card that has like a little embroidered patch on the front. So it's part of the message of the card, and then the recipient can like peel it off and wear it. So I really like figuring out like a product that people are familiar with that just has a little something extra. And then I have other things like this gift wrap, and then some small homewares like this tin cup and a box of matches. The matches I obviously don't make myself, but I design the sleeve that goes around them, and I decide like the color of the matchstick and the match head, and sort of customize an existing product or something like that. I have sort of wanted a gift shop since I was like a early teen. I remember going into this like store in Seattle and thinking it was so cute and so like nicely curated, and like from that moment I sort of always wanted a physical store. So in 2018 I was reaching a point where I had a studio space that was just like maybe a 10-foot by 10-foot room in a small office building. And it was just bursting at the seams with all of my stuff. And so I knew I either needed a larger space or something had to change. And I decided that if I was going to make a leap to a larger space anyway, I would love it to be a space where people could come in and where I could have more of a public facing business. That's why I opened my physical store in 2018, and I opened it like right before the holidays in November, which was a great time to launch a physical store, because people are like out and about and they're shopping, and yeah, it was a great experience. And then the next year I was trying to figure out a way to bring more people into the store, and also get to know people a little bit more, make more of a connection. And also I had this, like, a lot of my products sort of celebrate hobbies that people have or crafts they have. In addition to the stationary themed pins, I have like a sewing machine and a wrench and a glue gun, so I really wanted to sort of make that connection that between like my products and this like maker community. So I started hosting in-person workshops, which were like a really fun opportunity to sort of link the products that I had with the experiences that I was providing. So for example, I did like a punch needle workshop, and then also had supplies for punch needling and like a book about punch needle in the store, so that if people came in, they would enjoy the workshop and then also have some physical products that might be especially interesting to them. In 2020, obviously a pandemic hit, and all of a sudden I really had to rethink my business. People weren't coming into the physical store, which had really become a focus of mine. And so I had to think about how to take that experience online. So previous to 2020, I had an online store, but it had really only hosted like my line of products. Whereas the physical store had also a collection of products curated from other makers. So when people could no longer come into the physical store, I started adding a lot of those products to the online shop. And then I also did things like free local delivery, which was so fun. Like in a time when it was like life was so stressful and unsure, and people were bummed about being home, but like staying home to be safe, I got to like be a little like Christmas elf sort of, and delivering things around the valley. Ultimately, like as time went on, I discontinued the free local delivery, because in addition to my day job, that turns out to be like a lot of driving, but I still like love that. And I love that I got to test that out as a service and then sort of decide like what works and what's sustainable. So here's a little view of the shop. Since this photo was taken, that card wall is now, I think it has twice as many shelves as in the photo, but I also started out with about a third that many. So yeah, it's definitely changed a lot over time. Yeah, that's sort of the timeline. So let's get into some customer service details. And I wanted to start with talking about customer service online. So I like to think of customer service as like you're like a person at an information desk. And while it's good to be able to answer people's questions, I also think it's a lot more efficient if you can answer those questions before they even ask them. So when you're setting up your online shop, or when you're designing your packaging or product descriptions, I think it's great to think through what people would ask about your products or your business. So my recommendations would be write really thorough product descriptions, to make packaging that shows or explains what your items are and what they do, and then also think up some frequently asked questions, and then feel free to go back and edit those as you see, like as people actually ask you questions over and over again. Yeah, make a note of those. So I have some examples of people that I think are doing a really good job. This is Mochi Kids. Obviously, we already talked about how Amanda's products are great and her photos are beautiful, but I also think she does such a good job of including all of the info you need in your product descriptions. Amanda, I don't know if you feel like this is an especially strong one or not, but it's just one I grabbed. So I really like that her product name is cute and fun, but it also is really self-explanatory. And she starts off her product description with something cute, right? Like this happy pajamas, but then she gets right into all the info that I need to know. She includes like the fabric content. She includes where it's made. So if products that are made in the US are important to me, I immediately know that this checks that box. This like in stock ships in 1 to 3 business days is great because then the customer isn't emailing her the next day being like, is it on its way? Is it being delivered? Like I know from reading this to give it like 4 days before I start emailing Amanda. And then she also, along those same lines, has this bit at the bottom where it says, each garment is hand printed. Some variation might exist, is also good for setting expectations. And for reminding your customers that like you're a human being and that, things might be a little different than they expect, but that's part of the charm. And then she has sizing details, which is great. I know which of the product options to order based on this recommendation. And then I also have care instructions. I also think it's really smart that she includes her social links right here on the product description. If you have it just on your website, I still think that's great and works. You can have like icons or something like that, but that's often in the footer. So like I took this screenshot without having to scroll at all on my screen. So, which is great. This is everything I can see without any effort, really. Whereas if I was like, okay, cool, like maybe I'd like to follow Mochi Kids, but it was only in her footer, I'd have to scroll down. It's just like slightly more effort. But I love that she's made it so I don't even have to do that. Here is another Salt Lake business, Normal Ice Cream, that I think does a really good job on their packaging. They have this like really strong color palette and this really recognizable logo, this sort of like, it's like a sleepy smiley face, right? And I love that, like, even if I don't know like what this orange color means, I know that it looks like their branding because it's this bright saturated color. And I know that it's going to be a different product than this light pink carton. I immediately have like a visual signal to like that this is different than that. And then I also like that then they've mixed up their branding a little bit for these dairy-free products, this blood orange sorbet in the back, and then this blue one in the front. Because again, like I might think like, okay, I know I love the orange flavor that they have on the shelf. But then this branding where instead of the large logo, it's got these like logos sort of small and all over the packaging. That's going to signal to me that it's like a little different than usual. And then I'll see this starburst with the dairy free. So I think they've just done a really good job of making it like fun to look at and recognizable, but also gives me all the information I need. Here is one of my products that's packaged. So it is a greeting card with an envelope in a cellophane sleeve with a little sticker on it. So the idea of this product is that it has this big silver scratch off area that reveals like a secret message, which is sort of fun. But it's a little bit challenging because some of the copy on the product is covered when someone buys it, right? So I want them to know what it says under the scratched off area. But then I want it to be a surprise for the recipient. And I also want the recipient to know what they need to do. So that's why it's got these sort of like illustrated coins with the scratch off instruction. That's for the person getting the card, but for the person buying the card, this little sticker is going to tell them like what their card actually says. I have another, like a birthday card that's similar that says, let's have sex on it. So you want to make sure you don't give that to a platonic friend. Could get awkward. So another way to give some information is to clearly share your values. So I mentioned that a little bit on Mochi Kids product, how she mentioned that it was hand printed and made in the US. You're just like slipping in little bits of information that helps people know if your values align with theirs. And it also is great at explaining the cost of your items potentially. So, if I honestly don't know how the prices compare in real life, but say that a shirt from Mochi Kids is $5 more than a shirt from Target. If I see on her site that it is made in the US, that it's hand printed, that it like has this personal touch, all of a sudden I'm not like worrying about that like small price difference. Instead, I'm excited about supporting a business that supports those values. So it's a way for you to sort of not only justify your prices or say your speed, but also to make those a selling point and like a reason for someone to sort of fall in love with your business. I think an about page can also accomplish similar goals, or even things like behind the scenes looks on your social media. It gives your brand a personality and reminds people, that you're a small business and it's awesome, not that like, why go here instead of Amazon or somewhere. So these are some ways that I share like my values in person in my store. So I have signage that mentions that I'm local, that it's a woman-owned business, and that also I carry products that are by women-owned businesses or like family-owned businesses. And then I also, this is sort of a recent thing that I've added. I don't have a good photo of it, so I've just got screenshots, but I recently put these like small cards, they're just like a couple inches tall, around my store near some products, to help people like understand like what's cool about these products, without me having to like follow them around and explain it all. So yeah, I just have these little cards and then I fill them out sort of like this. I write the brand name in so they can connect it to the packaging. And then I make a note of what's cool about these products. So I have included the check boxes for some things that I look for when I'm choosing products for my store. And then I've left a spot open so I can mention, if there's something I especially like about a product, or if it's a value that's not on this list. So if it's like LGBTQ owned, for example, I might add that. I've seen other stores like do something similar, or like a more like fully handwritten note just telling what's cool, which I think works well also. But this was a way for me to do something really quick. I know myself, and if I'll put a thing off for a long time unless it's like pretty easy for myself. So, but I think something like this is also great for, say, a craft fair booth. If you've got a product that there's something really special about it, but maybe it requires an explanation, a small like info card next to that product is going to do some work for you. Especially if like a friend that doesn't know your products as well is covering your booth, or if you're talking to someone else. Yeah, I'm just a big fan of like small and like thoughtful signage. So when you're thinking about developing your shop policies, I have a bunch of questions for us to think through. I don't list these questions because I have an agenda for what your answer is. I just think it's helpful to think through different questions that might come up. I also think that it is great to set policies for your shop, but that they don't have to be set in stone. So it's great if you say like, okay, my policy is going to be, I don't accept returns. But then if I can be flexible, if something isn't too hard for me to do, or if someone has like an especially compelling case, you can bend the rules for them and potentially make it a really great experience, regardless of your policies. But yeah, some things to think through. If you'll accept returns or exchanges, I think it's important to think through your costs of things like returns and exchanges. So for example, return shipping on an item. Some companies, especially the larger companies, will pay for the return shipping label. But that is a cost and it cuts into your profit. So you may decide that you just can't cover that cost for people. And then another thing to think about is if your refund will include, like if you do accept returns or exchanges, if your refund for an item will include the cost of shipping. So if I buy a $20 item with $5 shipping, and you are going to give me a return, are you going to send me $25 or are you going to send me the full $30? Obviously that shipping cost is money you can't get back, but it does make someone feel really great about how they didn't lose any money on something they didn't need or didn't work for them. And then like how you would handle lost or broken shipments, or if you even want to ship at all. There are some companies, especially companies whose items are especially like bulky or fragile or whatever it is, that just don't do shipping at all. And I think like as a business owner, you get to make those calls and decide, what you do or do not want to get into. And then also think about your turnaround time. So that is, it's not to keep just stealing Amanda's thoughts, but that's like goes back to how she mentioned that things are in stock and they ship in a certain time frame. Maybe your products, you take orders and then make them if they're super custom or super handmade, in which case that's great. You just need to explain that extra turnaround time and set those expectations. And then think through like, will you accept rush orders, especially if your product is a great like gifting product? You're definitely gonna have people that wait till the last minute. So then you can think like, do I want to bend the rules for those people? Do I want to rush things for an extra fee? Or how much can I rush things without sacrificing my own sanity? So these are all like things to think about as you form your shop policies. Here's an example of the Land of Salt, I think has a great FAQ page. I, again, just included like a screenshot of it, but I would say if you need some inspiration, go to the Land of Salt's website and read it in full. There's a ton of great info in here. So there's obviously material info, like content information, but there's also tips for repairing your products, for cleaning your products, for what to do if you need her to repair one of her products. There's just like a whole lot of information that's going to answer like any questions that someone might have. And this is great for both your existing customers where these questions come up, but also as a potential customer. If I look through this and she's clearly like has a plan for anything that happens with my order, it's going to give me like real peace of mind and confidence in placing that order. So I'm going to shift a little into some sales basics, focusing on in-person selling. So one thing that I think is important to get out of something like a festival is to extend that relationship that you make with people that you meet at the event beyond just the time frame of the event. And so one way that you can do that is by getting those in-person people to find you online. So the first thing I would say is really important is to think about your business name recognition as you're making your signage and your product packaging. So that means, like making sure that your business name is on your booth. So when someone says like, where am I, like in the festival, and looks up, they like see your name. And then if they grab one of your products, that your name is on there also. And then to even take it further and say like, okay, so once they open the product or take off the tags or whatever it is there a way for my business name to remain on that product? So if you're selling like apparel or like a soft goods, like a doll, like is there a tag on there, or is it somehow printed on your product? You want it to, you don't want to get obnoxious with it or to like suddenly think that you're Nike and like have it right, like big and front and center on your product. But it's not only good for you for getting return sales, but it also like helps those customers. So like you make a beautiful doll and then it's the child's favorite toy, and then like it gets barf on it or something, and they need like a replacement quickly. They need to be able to like remember who made that item and where they can get another. Or I'm recommending like the softest shirt I own to a friend. I need to remember where I got it. Especially at something like a festival, or if you're selling on a marketplace like Etsy, people are going to remember that they bought the item at the DIY festival, or they're going to remember that they bought the item on Etsy. But there's a really good chance they're not going to remember off the top of their head your specific brand name. So making that easy for them to remember is really important. I also think at in-person events, you need to make it easy or possibly incentivize them to follow you on social media or to sign up for something like alerts or emails from you. So the way that I do it is I have a like physical clipboard with a sign up form for my emails. I've seen people do something similar, but they have like a drawing. So anyone that signs up for the email is entered into a drawing for something that is given away on the last day of the event. You could also consider using like a QR code really visible in your booth so that they can easily scan it and be signed up. Or even think about, for the people that are making a purchase, those are the people that are going to be the most interested in something like alerts or emails from you. So do you have a way of collecting some information for them? Say you're going to like email or text them their receipt. Make sure you have a way of collecting those emails or phone numbers and translating those into a way to stay in touch. Many platforms sort of facilitate that for you, but it's something to investigate so that you know beforehand if you're going to be able to retrieve those customer contacts and then invite them to stay up to date on what you're doing with your business. I also think it's great to incentivize buying at the event. So that could be like offering a special discount, like a 2-for-1 sort of promo, again, or like maybe all sales get entered into a drawing, things to really like solidify that relationship at the event. I've seen a lot of people that seem interested, maybe they like take a business card, but they don't actually make a purchase at the event, which is okay, that they can still turn into a customer after the fact. But they definitely are gonna forget, if yours is one of several business cards in their pocket, they're gonna forget like what they especially loved about your booth, especially after they've seen 100 of them. So really trying to sort of solidify that relationship in the moment is gonna go a long way for you. I think it's great to use events to do something like special for that event. So to preview new items, to sell something exclusively at the event, maybe you open it up to your online customers after the fact, but really make that event like the first time that they can get something. Another idea is if you have a product that's very popular but isn't always in stock, letting your customers know, like, I'm going to have a limited quantity of this product that everybody loves at the event. If you do something like that, not only are they going to make a special point to come by your booth, they're going to come by your booth first to try to like get that like limited quantity item. I used the Craft Lake Festival 2 years ago to launch my Kickstarter project for a product that I was selling, and it was great. There was like an opportunity to talk about this new thing that I was doing to a lot of people, and use the excitement of the event to turn it into like excitement about my Kickstarter and vice versa. So yeah, it's great to make something that's really feels exclusive to that event. Also, I think always bring business cards or some sort of like a giveaway item, like a sticker or something for folks who are not ready to buy. Like I said earlier, like it's not as ideal as them actually making the purchase at the festival, but it's certainly better than nothing. And it can definitely develop into an online customer or a follower on social media or something like that. I wanted to show you some of the items that I give away. So these are not things that that I sell, but they have a couple different purposes. So up here, this is my like standard business card. So it's got my logo on it. It's got all of the places they can find me, you know, online, my physical store, and then my social media name. And then on the other side, I have a discount code so that hopefully people, especially if all they're taking from my booth is my business card, I'm hoping this will sort of like push them over the edge into becoming an actual customer online. And it's great to make this, like I make this discount code, it's pretty comparable to whatever like festival specials I might be running. So it's not like it's a better deal than buying from me at the festival, but it's a reason to come back. These two items go in every package every online order that I ship out. This sticker usually goes on the envelope, so it sort of builds some excitement when it's in your mailbox. And then this little packet of confetti goes inside. Honestly, I probably get tagged in more photos of the confetti than in photos of my actual product, which I mean, maybe that's a thing to look at product wise, but it's great. It like makes people excited. It makes it like feel like a tiny party. Like it's part of like the fun experience of getting something from my shop, and is something that like sticks around and reminds them that it's fun. This down here is a sticker sheet that I made. It's like a little embarrassing because it's me as naked as I get, but I made this sticker sheet because I was putting my own face on social media more for my brand, and I wanted to hopefully sort of solidify that connection of like my face and my brand, and that it was fun. I wear a lot of jumpsuits. So again, like I'm sort of like leaning into like whatever the cartoon version of myself is. And then I have like a giant like 5-foot pencil in my store. And so this again is like sort of a signature item that people have seen. My likeness is on like at least 4 water bottles. So that's kind of fun and weird. This pencil down at the bottom is just another like small giveaway item. Sometimes it might go with an online order. Sometimes I just have a jar full of these pencils like out at an event or in my store for someone to take. It says send more mail, and then on the next side of the pencil it says City of Industry. So again, it's about like name recognition, right? That's my only real goal with that, is just that people walk away thinking of like City of Industry and stationery, like sort of in the same thought bubble. This last postcard has a little bit of a different purpose. So I also sell my products that I design and make to other stores. I sell them wholesale. And this postcard is something that I bring to wholesale events or that I send in every wholesale order in the package. So it's a little maybe more serious looking than like my confetti or my sticker sheet, but it gives the stores some talking points about my brand, and hopefully helps them get to know me, because that's gonna like number one, make a connection with them, but number two, help them do an even better job selling my stuff and hopefully then ordering more and helping my business grow. So yeah, I have on one side, it has this image of some of my products, and on the other side, it has some talking points. So it mentions like a very condensed version of my story, that it's a woman-owned business, that they're like affordable gifts for makers. It includes the price point range, all the ways to keep in touch with me. And then my business has kind of like a dumb name that always brings up this question of like, is it named after this city in California? So yeah, I just addressed that on this card to sort of get that out of the way. And then there's a space to the right here where I will write like a little note saying thank you for your order. So yeah, just ways that I can sort of bring a personal touch and hopefully have someone walk away like remembering something about my business. Some other in-person selling tips that I wanted to go over is practice those elevator pitches that we came up with the first week. What makes your items unique, sort of how you explain your shop. If you ever drive past me when I'm on the way to the market, it looks like I'm muttering to myself, and it's because I'm also going over my elevator pitch. And then I also would recommend that you really keep your prices simple so there's not too much to explain. That's to make your job easier, and it really helps you save some time, especially when your booth is busy. So say you have a bunch of products that are like hand sewn out of fabric that's like priced slightly different per yard. So technically your costs on each product are a little different, but it is a huge hassle to be like, okay, yeah, that one's like $13, that one's like $14.50. It's like so much for you to remember, so much for you to explain, a lot for your customers to understand or get confused by. But if I can just say like everything in that bin is $15, like that's so much easier for all parties involved. Also, have a plan for if you sell out of something. One idea that I like is to save your last item and start taking pre-orders for it. So don't sell your very last thing. Instead, say like, oh, that's actually a display item, but I'm taking pre-orders, or you can buy it on my website, or, have a plan for how you will still like get details from the people that were interested in that item, even if they can't walk away with that item right then. So this is a great opportunity for you to collect emails or phone numbers and say like, I'll notify you as soon as it's back in stock, or however you want to handle that. Truly, one of the best parts of the festival is sharing what other booths you're excited about. It's awesome to feel like you connect with a shopper and then you get to like send them to a booth that you just like know they're gonna love. And yeah, it's like good vibes all around. And then having someone show up at your booth because someone recommended it also feels amazing. So it's not just about sales, although that's great if that helps people, but it also just makes it really fun and makes you feel connected to the other vendors. My last tip is, I know this seems obvious, but like look alert and ready to talk. Like we've talked about how festival days or market days are long days. And especially if you're introverted, like all you want to do is like sit down, like hunch over and like stare at your phone for a half hour. But there's nothing like less inviting than like a person sitting down hunched over and staring at their phone. And so have a plan for like how you're going to take care of yourself, but still like have your booth look inviting. So for me, instead of a chair, I often bring a stool, because then even if I need to sit, which is totally acceptable, I'm closer to like standing eye height. And I look more ready to engage with someone. And also, like have a friend relieve you so that you can go do your like phone hunch for a bit, and then come back when you're like ready again to like make eye contact and engage with people. So the platform that I use for my in-person sales, this seems obvious, but I use Big Cartel. And if I have the opportunity after I complete the transaction to send them a receipt, plenty of people will say like, no, thanks, I don't need one. And that you may just lose that, but some will ask for it to be emailed. So I'll type in their email address and it attaches to their order. And also then I can go and look at my orders later and grab those emails. I would say if you are collecting phone numbers or emails in a way like that, it's important to send out, have your first communication be asking them if they want to get marketing communication from you. But that's pretty easy to do. Some programs, like I believe MailChimp and some others, you can set that up to be like the automatic thing. Like as soon as you get their email in an order form, it sends it to MailChimp, who sends them an email that says like, hey, do you want to get emails from City of Industry? Some platforms, especially those that are more marketplaces, I believe, they protect the end customer's emails or phone numbers like more. They anonymize those before they send them to you. And so that process is harder. So you may, if you're considering using Square or something else for your in-person sales, you may even want to do like a test sale and then see if you're able to retrieve that email address or phone number after the fact.
So I hired like my friend who knows a lot about statistics and marketing, and we've been tracking like where all my sales come from, and we found that email is the most successful way that I get sales. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can get sales through email. There's like your basic newsletter, then there's if someone is checking out but then decides not to go through with the purchase, you can send them like an abandoned cart email. And what we're working on developing now is like a welcome series, so that if a customer does sign up for an email list, they're automatically put into this series of emails that kind of introduces them to the brand, and they stay in that series until they make a purchase. And at the end of the series, we give them like an extra discount to really try to get them to purchase. So they call it like a funnel. It's just like a term that they use. But so there's tons of different ways to market through email. I think that if you're just starting out, the most important thing is just to capture that email address, and you can save that for when you're ready to start getting into email marketing. I've basically done the bare minimum of email up until just this past month when we decided to start doing like series and funnels and things like that. But if you're not ready to do that, at least just try to get their email and save that for later. You can, save it for years if you want, till you feel like you're ready. I know I have some friends, when they've launched Kickstarters, that's like they were capturing emails and they launched a Kickstarter and decided to email all those people that they've gotten emails from throughout the years. So yeah, I would just start right away if you can.
Email lists are something that we're just starting at Copper Hive. When we got shared on that Refinery 29, I got literally 400 emails saying, add me to your email list. So I was like, oh, I should probably do this. So I honestly just wrote everyone's email down. Since I use Square in the shop, I'm going to be doing it through Square just because it's easy for me to manage, and then I can continue to add customers to it. But basically, I'm in the process now where I'm just writing up like a intro email. Hey, this is if you found us from here, this is what we're about. If you want to keep receiving these emails, hit this link. If you don't, unsubscribe here. It's important to me to have the people that sign up really want to enjoy the content versus becoming spam in people's emails. So we're kind of just beginning. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But from all of my friends that have small businesses, like, email lists are worth their weight in gold.
I only started doing email stuff when I started my website last year. And I don't do a ton, but I do have an email like sign up list on my website. So you can just sign up for emails if you want those for like updates and sales and everything. And then I also just send abandoned cart emails. So if people leave anything in their cart, it'll be like, oh, you left this in your cart. Did you want to go check it out? Did you want to go buy it? Go ahead. So that's about all I do, but it does help.
Jacqueline and Angela both mentioned Square. And I will say, I think the downside email-wise is they do hide the email addresses from you. But the plus is that you can message them from within Square. You can send out emails using Square. And the great thing about Square is if they've given their email address to or phone number to like anyone that uses Square, Square remembers that and matches them up, even if it's their first time purchasing from you. And even if they said like, oh, no receipt, Square will remember them and you can still market to them. So that is a pretty powerful tool with limitations.
Usually at Craft Lake City, I'll make up like a order form, and it just has like a place to write the customer's like name, email address, what item they want, and I'll fill it out. It's kind of like an invoice. And if I sell out of something or I don't have the size, because I do lots of like kid shirts and I offer like 11 sizes, so very often I won't have the size that they need. I'll just fill out the form and I'll take their payment on like the little square card reader, and I'll say, okay, you'll get it in 2 weeks. And yeah,